The cargo bay of Station Nexus 7 smelled like metal and engine oil, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and lifted another container onto the transport belt. The box weighed nearly 200 pounds, but he moved it like it was nothing. Years of hard work had made his body strong, even if no one on this station bothered to notice. Around him, aliens of different species worked and talked and laughed. Most of them stood 7 or 8 feet tall. Some had 4 arms. Others had skin like stone. They were stronger than any human could ever be, and they knew it. To them was just another soft one from that little blue planet called Earth. A group of workers passed by, carrying a massive engine part between them. One of them, a gray-skinned male named Nodded At, was one of the few aliens who treated him like a person instead of furniture. "Long shift today," said in his deep voice. Nodded, same as always. That was his life now. Wake up, work, send money to his sister, sleep, repeat. It was simple, and simple was safe. Simple meant no trouble. The cargo bay doors opened with a loud hiss. Looked up and felt his stomach tighten. Warriors. They walked in like they owned the station. In many ways they did. They were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They stood 9 feet tall with 4 muscular arms and skin that looked like dark armor. Their eyes glowed faint yellow, and when they moved, the ground seemed to shake. There were 5 of them, walking in a line through the cargo bay. Workers scrambled to get out of their way. They did not slow down for anyone. Kept his head down and continued working. He reached for another container, minding his own business, but he was standing too close to their path. One of them walked straight into him. The alien did not even look. His massive arm swept out and knocked sideways like he was made of paper, flew 3 feet and crashed into a stack of crates. Metal boxes fell around him with loud bangs. They kept walking. He did not look back, he did not apologize. To him was not even worth noticing. Hurried over and helped to his feet. "Are you hurt?" Shook his head. His shoulder burned where he had hit the crates, but nothing was broken. He had felt worse pain before. "You should say something," said, his voice low and angry. "They cannot treat you like this." "What would I say?" asked. He bent down and started picking up the fallen containers. What would it change? Watched him with sad eyes. "You are too calm about these things, my friend. Do humans not have pride?" Paused. For a moment something dark flickered in his eyes, something old, but it disappeared as fast as it came. "Pride does not pay for food," he said quietly, "and fighting does not bring peace." He went back to work, watched him for a long moment, then walked away shaking his head. What did not know, what nobody on the station knew, was who used to be. Back on Earth in the rainy streets there were underground fighting rings. No rules, no referees, just 2 people in a circle fighting until one could not stand anymore. Men bet money on the fighters. Some fighters died. Most were forgotten. Had never been forgotten. They called him the Ghost because of how he moved. Opponents would swing at him and he was never there. They would guard their face and his fist would already be hitting their ribs. He was not the biggest fighter. He was not the strongest. But he was the fastest anyone had ever seen. He won 47 fights in a row. Then came the 48th. His opponent that night was a young man, barely 20 years old. The kid was desperate and scared and fighting because he needed money for his sick mother. Could see the fear in his eyes. He should have ended it quickly and cleanly. But the crowd wanted blood that night, and his hands moved before his mind could stop them. He broke the kid's jaw in 3 places, cracked 4 ribs, damaged something in his brain that doctors said might never heal. The young man lived, but he would never walk properly again, never speak clearly again. Quit that night. He packed his things, took his sister, and left Earth on the first ship that would take them. He swore he would never fight again. That was 2 years ago. Now he moved boxes in a cargo bay while aliens pushed him around like garbage, and he told himself this was better. This was the life he deserved. His shift ended 6 hours later. Walked through the station's lower corridors, heading toward his small sleeping quarters. The halls here were narrow and dirty, filled with flickering lights and dripping pipes. This was where the workers lived. The important people lived in the upper levels, where the air was clean and the walls were white. A familiar voice called his name. He turned and saw running toward him. His sister was 24 years old, small and thin with intelligent eyes. She worked as a translator in the diplomatic section of the station. Her job was to help different species understand each other during important meetings. She looked worried, very worried. "What is wrong?" asked. Grabbed his arm and pulled him into a quiet corner. She checked to make sure no one was listening, then spoke in a fast whisper. "I heard something today, in one of the meetings. The ambassadors were talking about humans, about a demonstration." "What kind of demonstration?" "I do not know exactly," her voice shook. "But they mentioned your name, I heard them say your name." Felt something cold settle in his chest. "You must have heard wrong." "I did not hear wrong." Eyes filled with tears. "Something bad is happening, I can feel it. These aliens, they do not see us as equals, they see us as entertainment, as examples." Put his hands on her shoulders. "Calm down, I am just a cargo worker. Why would ambassadors care about me?" But even as he said it, he did not believe it. On this station, humans had no power. They had no protection. If someone important wanted to use them for something, there was nothing they could do to stop it. "Please be careful," begged. "Promise me." "I promise," Sid. That night he could not sleep. He lay in his small bed, staring at the metal ceiling, thinking about the past he had buried. At 3 in the morning, someone knocked on his door. Opened it and found 2 station security officers standing outside. They were tall aliens with blue skin and black uniforms. One of them asked, "Yes. Ambassador wishes to speak with you. Please come with us." Security officers led through corridors he had never seen before. These halls were wide and bright, with polished floors that reflected the lights above. The air smelled clean, almost sweet. This was the upper level of the station, where the powerful lived and made their decisions. They stopped in front of a large door made of some kind of dark wood. Real wood, probably from some alien planet. On a space station where everything was metal and plastic, having a wooden door meant you were very rich and very important. The door opened by itself, and the officers pushed inside. The room was bigger than the entire floor where lived. Soft lights glowed from the ceiling. Strange plants grew in pots along the walls. In the center of the room, behind a curved desk made of black stone, sat Ambassador. Was a species known for their sharp minds and even sharper politics. He was thin and tall, with pale gray skin and eyes that had no color at all. When he smiled, it looked like a knife being pulled from its sheath. The ambassador said, his voice was smooth like oil, "Please sit down." There was a small chair in front of the desk. Sat. The chair was uncomfortable, probably on purpose. "Do you know why you are here?" asked. "No." Straight to the point. "I like that about humans." Pressed a button on his desk, and a hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed a massive arena filled with thousands of seats. "This is the grand arena of Nexus 7. In 3 days there will be an event here, a very important event." Said nothing, he waited. "The Galactic Assembly has been debating the status of humans," continued. "Many species believe your kind are too weak, too primitive to deserve a place among us. They say humans take resources but offer nothing in return. They want to reduce your rights, limit your travel, perhaps even send you all back to your dying planet." "What does this have to do with me?" His empty eyes seemed to glow. "Everything, mister. The Assembly has agreed to a demonstration, a way for humans to prove their worth. A representative of your species will face a champion of the in-ceremonial combat. Non-lethal, of course. First blood ends the match." The cold feeling in his chest grew colder. "And you want me to be this representative?" "Want is a strong word," smiled his knife smile. "The announcement has already been made. Your name has already been given to the public. You will fight in 3 days whether you want to or not." His hands tightened on the arms of his chair. "I am a cargo worker. I have no combat training. Why would you choose me?" "Your labor records show you have a background in fighting. Underground circuits in 47 victories." Waved his hand like this was nothing interesting. "You were the most qualified human we could find on short notice." "I stopped fighting years ago." "Then you will start again." Stood up, his chair scraped against the floor. "I refuse, find someone else." Did not seem surprised. He pressed another button and a new hologram appeared. This one showed, walking through a corridor in the diplomatic section, carrying documents and smiling at a. "Your sister has a temporary work visa," said calmly. "It expires in 30 days. Her renewal application is currently sitting on my desk, waiting for my signature." His blood turned to ice. "If you refuse to participate," continued, "her application will be, she will be deported back to Earth within the week. I believe the situation there is still quite bad, yes. Floods, food shortages, disease. It would be a shame for such a talented young woman to return to that." For a long moment did not move, did not breathe. His mind raced through options looking for a way out. There was none. "Who is the champion?" he asked quietly. Smile widened. "The Unbroken." The name hit like a punch to the gut. Everyone knew he was a legend. 200 arena victories, 9 feet of muscle and armored skin. And most famously, no opponent had ever landed a single blow on him. Not one, in his entire career. "I see you understand," said. "The match is not meant to be fair, mister. It is meant to show the galaxy that humans are inferior, that you are soft and slow and weak. After destroys you, the Assembly will have all the excuse they need to do whatever they want with your species." "You are sacrificing me," said. "I am using you," corrected. "There is a difference. Now do we have an agreement? Your cooperation for your sister's safety." Looked at the hologram of one more time. Then he nodded. "Good," turned off the holograms. "You may leave. Someone will contact you with the details." Walked out of the office in a daze. The security officers were gone. He was alone in the bright, clean corridor, surrounded by wealth and power, feeling more trapped than ever. He needed information. He needed to understand what he was facing. The station's medical center was on the middle levels. Went there and found working the night shift was another human, a medic who had come to the station 5 years ago. She was in her 30s, with short black hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. She looked surprised to see him. "What are you doing here? Are you hurt?" "I need to ask you something." He sat down across from her desk. About how they fight." His face changed. She had heard the announcement. Everyone had heard it by now. "You are the one," she said softly, "the human who will face." "Yes." Was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and closed her office door. When she sat back down, her voice was low and serious. "The evolved as ambush predators," she said. "Their eyes are designed to detect movement in short bursts. They see the world in frames like photographs, not like a continuous video. Their brains process about 15 images per second." Frowned. "What does that mean for fighting?" "It means they react to what they have already seen, not what is happening right now. There is a small delay between when something happens and when their brain understands it. For them, it is normal. They do not even notice." "And humans?" Leaned forward. "Humans process 60 images per second, maybe more when we are scared or excited. Our ancestors were both hunters and prey. We had to see the lion in the grass before it saw us. Our eyes, our nerves, our brains, everything is built for speed." Something sparked in his mind. An idea, a possibility. "There is something else," said. They have a strict honor code in combat. They announce their attacks before they make them. They name their moves out loud. They believe fighting should be a ritual, a ceremony. And if someone does not follow this code, shook her head. I do not know. It has never happened. Every species that has faced them in the arena has followed their rules. It would be dishonorable to do otherwise. Thought about the back alleys about fights where there were no rules, no honor, no warnings, where you hit first and hit fast and did whatever it took to survive. Honor was a luxury, survival was not. Thank you, he told, this helps. That night went to the observation deck on the far side of the station. It was empty at this hour. Through the massive windows, he could see Earth in the distance, a small blue dot among millions of stars. He thought about his sister, about the promise he had made to never fight again, about the young man whose life he had ruined. Then he raised his fists. For the first time in 2 years, began to shadowbox. His hands moved through the air, fast and smooth. His feet danced on the metal floor. His reflection in the window showed something that the aliens of this station had never seen. Speed that did not seem possible. Movement that blurred the line between human and ghost. In 3 days, he would face the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy, a giant who had never been touched, a legend who had never known defeat. But the Unbroken had never faced anyone like him. Threw one final punch at the air, fast enough that his reflection could not keep up. Then he lowered his hands and stared at the stars. He did not want to be a fighter anymore, but he would become something worse. The grand arena of Nexus 7 was built to hold 50,000 beings. On the day of the demonstration, every seat was filled. 12 different species had gathered to watch what everyone believed would be a slaughter. Giant screens floated above the arena, ready to broadcast the fight across the entire galaxy. Stood alone in a small room beneath the arena floor. He could hear the crowd above him, their voices mixing together into a single roar of excitement. They were cheering for blood, his blood. The door opened and rushed inside. Her eyes were red from crying. You cannot do this, she said, grabbing his arms. There has to be another way. We can run. We can hide somewhere. There is nowhere to hide, said gently. They would find us, and even if they did not, you would never be safe. You would never have a future. I do not care about my future if you are dead. Smiled, it was a small, sad smile. I am not going to die, I promise. She looked at him with desperate eyes. How can you promise that? He is a monster, he has never lost. No one has ever even touched him. Took her hands in his. They were so small compared to his, so soft. She had never known the kind of life he had lived before they came here. She did not know about the blood on his hands, the things he had done to survive. Do you trust me? He asked. Yes, she whispered. Then trust me now. No matter what you see out there, no matter what happens, trust me. The door opened again. A station official stood there holding a tablet. It is time. Hugged her brother one last time, then appeared and gently pulled her away. Come, I will stay with you. He will be okay. Watched them go. Then he turned and walked toward the arena entrance. The tunnel was long and dark. At the end, he could see bright lights and moving shapes. The crowd noise grew louder with each step. When he finally emerged into the arena, the sound hit him like a physical wall. 50,000 aliens looked down at him from their seats. Some laughed when they saw him. A human, small and soft-looking in simple gray clothes. No armor, no weapons, just a cargo worker from the lower levels. On the giant screens, his face appeared next to statistics that meant nothing. Height, 5 feet 10 inches. Weight, 170 pounds. Combat experience, unknown. The crowd found this hilarious. Then the opposite tunnel opened, and the laughter stopped. The Unbroken entered the arena. He was everything the stories said and more. 9 feet tall with 4 massive arms, each one thick with muscle. His skin was dark and rough like the armor of some ancient beast. His yellow eyes glowed with absolute confidence. Every step he took shook the ground beneath his feet. The screens updated with his statistics. Height, 9 feet 4 inches. Weight, 850 pounds. Combat record, 200 victories, 0 defeats, 0 strikes received. The crowd exploded with cheers. Raised all 4 of his arms, soaking in their worship like sunlight. He was their hero, their unbreakable champion. This match would be nothing but another easy victory. Ambassador's voice echoed through the arena speakers. Welcome to this historic demonstration. Today, we witness a test of worth. A representative of the human species will face our beloved champion in ceremonial combat. The rules are simple. First blood ends the match. Let honor guide the fighters. Walk to the center of the arena. His feet left cracks in the stone floor. He stopped 12 feet away from and looked down at him with something that might have been pity. Little human, said, his voice deep like thunder. I will make this quick. There is no shame in losing to me. Many have lost. None have been hurt badly. I am not cruel. Said nothing. He stood very still, his arms at his sides, his breathing slow and steady. Tilted his massive head. Do you not speak? Are you too afraid? Still nothing. Somewhere in the crowd, gripped hands so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Very well. Assumed a formal fighting stance, all 4 arms raised in specific positions. This was the way. Every move had a name. Every attack was announced. It was ritual. It was honor. It was how combat was supposed to be done. A ceremonial gong sounded, deep and resonant. The match had officially begun. Opened his mouth to announce his first attack. According to tradition, he would name the strike before throwing it. He had done this 200 times before. The words were already forming on his lips. I will now perform the moved. He did not announce anything. He did not assume a stance. He simply exploded forward like a bullet fired from a gun. 12 feet of distance, disappeared in less than half a second. His brain was still processing the fact that the human had been standing still. His eyes had taken a picture of in one position, and then suddenly, impossibly, the picture changed. The first punch hit his jaw from the left side. His fist was small compared to this massive face, but it struck the exact point where nerves connected to bone. Pain shot through his skull like lightning. Before his brain could understand the first hit, the second one arrived. His right fist buried itself in his ribs, right below his second arm. The impact was precise, targeting the gap between his armored skin. Third strike. An open palm to the throat, fast and sharp, hitting the soft tissue that even armor could not protect. Fourth strike. His knee drove into the nerve cluster in his thigh, the massive leg buckled. Fifth strike. An elbow to the temple, snapping his head to the side with terrible force. 5 heartbeats, 5 strikes. Each one landed before his brain even registered the previous one. To the champion, the human had not moved fast. The human had teleported. One moment standing still, the next moment everywhere at once, hitting from impossible angles. Staggered backward. His yellow eyes were wide with confusion. For the first time in 200 fights, he did not understand what had happened to him. His brain was still catching up, still processing, still trying to make sense of images that did not fit together. He touched his face. His fingers came away wet. Blood. The Unbroken stared at his own blood. For a moment, he did not believe it. He had never bled in the arena. No one had ever made him bleed. No one had ever even touched him. The arena was completely silent. 50,000 beings sat in absolute shock, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Stood 6 feet away, his hands at his sides again. His breathing was calm. His expression had not changed. He looked exactly like he had before the fight started, as if he had done nothing at all. On the giant screens, the replay began. The footage had been slowed down by 90%, and Still's movements looked impossibly fast. His fists were blurs. His body flowed from position to position like water through cracks. Most of the aliens watching could not process it. Their eyes, their brains, their entire biology was not built to see what a human could do when they stopped holding back. His legs finally gave out. The giant dropped to one knee, 4 hands pressed against the arena floor, blood dripping from his face onto the stone. First blood has been drawn. Ambassador's voice came through the speakers, shaking with disbelief. The match is over. The human wins. For a long moment nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The galaxy held its breath. Then from somewhere in the crowd a single human stood up. Then another. And another. The humans in the arena, workers and servants and forgotten people from the lower levels, rose to their feet one by one. They did not cheer. They did not shout. They simply stood, looking at the small man in the center of the arena who had done what no one believed was possible. Lifted his head and looked at. There was no anger in his eyes, only wonder. "What are you?" the giant whispered. Met his gaze. For the first time since the match began, he spoke. Chaos erupted in the arena the moment the match ended. Warriors poured out of the stands, their yellow eyes burning with rage. They surrounded the arena floor, shouting at the officials, demanding that the result be canceled. Their champion had been humiliated. Their honor had been stained. This could not be allowed to stand. "The human cheated," one of them roared. "He did not follow the ceremonial rules. He did not announce his attacks. This is against the ancient codes." Ambassador rushed onto the arena floor, his pale face even paler than usual. This was not how things were supposed to happen. The human was supposed to lose. The human was supposed to bleed and beg and prove that his species was worthless. Instead, everything had gone wrong. "They are correct," said quickly, his voice amplified by the speakers. "The human did not follow proper combat protocol. The match should be." "No." The single word cut through the chaos like a blade. Everyone turned to look at. The giant had risen to his feet. Blood still dripped from his face, staining his dark skin, but his eyes were clear and his voice was steady. "The match stands," said. "I have lost." The warriors fell silent. They stared at their champion in disbelief. "But he did not follow the codes," one of them protested. "He struck without warning. There was no honor in his attacks." Walked forward until he stood directly in front of. The size difference was almost comical. The giant towered over the human like a mountain over a stone. "Look at me," said, pointing to his bloody face. "I am wounded. In 200 fights no opponent has ever touched me. Today this human touched me 5 times before I even knew the fight had begun." He turned to face the crowd. "According to law, blood drawn is blood drawn. The method does not matter, only the result." "But the honor." "Honor is for those who can afford it," interrupted. "This human did not come here to prove his honor. He came here to survive, and survival does not care about rules." He looked down at again. "I understand now. Your species does not fight the way we do. You fight to live. That is something different entirely." Ambassador tried to speak again, but silenced him with a look. "The human has won," the giant repeated. "Anyone who says otherwise calls me a liar, and I do not think anyone here wants to do that." The arena went quiet. Nobody argued with, nobody dared. Was escorted back to the tunnels beneath the arena, was waiting for him. She threw herself into his arms, crying and laughing at the same time. "You did it," she sobbed. "I cannot believe you did it." Stood nearby, her eyes wide with amazement. "I have worked on this station for 5 years. I have never seen anything like that. The footage is already spreading across the galaxy. Everyone is watching." She was not exaggerating. Within hours, the recording of the match had been viewed billions of times. Scientists and analysts from every species studied the footage frame by frame, trying to understand what had happened. What they discovered changed everything. The footage was slowed down by 95%. At this speed, most beings could finally see his movements clearly. His fists moving towards body, his feet shifting on the ground, his entire form flowing from one position to the next with perfect efficiency. But at normal speed, it was different. At normal speed, seemed to disappear and reappear, like he was folding through space instead of moving through it. Scientists realized that most species in the galaxy simply could not process human movement at full speed. Their eyes and brains were not designed for it. Research teams began publishing their findings. Humans, they explained, had evolved under unique conditions. They were both predators and prey on their home planet. They had to hunt fast animals while avoiding being hunted by faster ones. Over millions of years, their nervous systems had developed to process information at incredible speeds. A brain processed about 15 visual frames per second. A human brain processed 60 or more. This meant that in the time it took to understand one image, his brain had already processed 4. 2 had not moved fast, had moved between the frames. He had existed in the spaces that the brain could not see. The implications were enormous. For centuries, the galaxy had dismissed humans as weak and slow. Their bodies were small. Their strength was limited. They had no natural armor, no claws, no venomous bites. On paper, they seemed like one of the weakest species in existence. But nobody had ever tested their speed. Nobody had ever pushed them into a situation where they needed to fight for survival. Nobody had ever seen what happened when a human stopped being polite and started being dangerous. Now they knew. Across the galaxy, the perception of humans began to shift. Species that had ignored them started paying attention. Military academies requested access to human fighting techniques. Scientists proposed new studies on human biology. Diplomats began treating human representatives with newfound respect. On Station Nexus 7, the change was immediate. Humans who had been invisible suddenly became visible. Workers who had been pushed aside suddenly found themselves being greeted with nods of acknowledgement. The jokes stopped. The insults disappeared. Fear has a way of creating respect, even when nothing else will. 3 days after the match, returned to the observation deck where he had trained. He stood at the window, watching Earth turn slowly in the distance. Found him there. Ambassador has been removed from his position, she said, standing beside him. The Galactic Assembly investigated and found evidence that he planned the whole demonstration to make humans look bad. He will face trial. Nodded but said nothing. Your name is everywhere now, continued. They are calling you the ghost of Nexus 7. Some species want to build statues of you. Others want to study you. Everyone wants something from the human who beat the unbroken. And what do you want? Asked quietly. Was silent for a moment. I want my brother back, the one who moved boxes and sent me money and never talked about his past. I want things to be simple again. Finally turned to look at her. His eyes were tired, heavy. He had won the fight, but there was no joy in his victory. Do you remember why I stopped fighting? He asked. You never told me. There was a boy, younger than you. He needed money for his sick mother, so he entered the underground rings. He was desperate and scared, and he should never have been there. His voice grew thick with old pain. I hurt him, badly, things inside him that will never heal. I swore that day that I would never raise my fists again. Took his hand, but you did for me. Yes, and I would do it again. He squeezed her hand gently. But that does not make it right. Fighting is easy for me, too easy. That is why I must be careful. That is why I cannot become what they want me to be. What do they want you to be? Looked back at the stars. A weapon, a symbol, a reason for other species to fear humans. He shook his head slowly. We are more than that. We have to be more than that. If the galaxy only respects us because they are afraid of us, then we have not really earned anything. Did not fully understand, but she trusted her brother. She always had. They stood together at the window, watching the distant light of Earth, neither of them knowing that the greatest challenge was yet to come. Because somewhere in the station, the Unbroken was looking for. Not to fight him, to learn from him. 1 week had passed since the fight, and Station Nexus 7 had become a different place. Noticed it everywhere he went. In the cargo bay, where aliens now stepped aside to let him pass. In the corridors, where strangers nodded at him with something between respect and fear. In the cafeteria, where other workers saved a seat for him without being asked. He did not want any of it. He just wanted to move boxes and live quietly and pretend the fight had never happened. But the galaxy had other plans. Every day, messages arrived for him. Military academies wanted him to train their soldiers. Governments wanted him to become an ambassador. Entertainment companies wanted him to fight in their arenas for money and fame. Each offer was bigger than the last. Each one promised wealth and power beyond anything a cargo worker could imagine. Deleted them all. He was standing in the cargo bay, lifting a heavy container onto the transport belt, when a shadow fell over him. He looked up and felt his breath catch in his throat. The Unbroken stood before him. The giant looked different now. His wounds had healed, but something in his eyes had changed. The arrogance was gone. The absolute confidence had been replaced by something quieter, more thoughtful. Said, his voice was softer than before, "I have been looking for you." The other workers in the cargo bay froze. They stared at the scene with wide eyes, waiting for violence. Surely the champion had come for revenge. Surely blood would be spilled. But simply stood there, all four arms relaxed at his sides, his posture open and non-threatening. "I have come to ask you something," the giant said. Set down his container slowly. "What do you want?" "I want to understand." Lowered himself until he was sitting on the floor, bringing his eyes closer to level. Even sitting, he was still taller than the human, but the gesture meant something. It was an offering of equality. For 200 fights, I believed I was unbeatable. I believed the way of combat was the only true way. Then you showed me that everything I knew was incomplete. Said nothing, he waited. Your attack had no warning, continued. No announcement, no ritual. You simply moved and I could not see you. My brain could not understand what was happening. He touched the place on his face where his first punch had landed. I have thought about it every moment since. How did you do it? How did you become so fast? Considered the question. Around them, the cargo bay had gone completely silent. Every worker had stopped what they were doing to listen. "I am not fast," finally said. Frowned. "I do not understand. I watched the footage 1,000 times. You moved faster than anything I have ever seen." "That is not speed." Sat down across from the giant, mirroring his position. "Humans are not the fastest creatures in the galaxy. We are not the strongest or the toughest, but we are something else. We are afraid." Afraid. On Earth we were prey. We were soft and slow compared to the animals that hunted us. Lions, wolves, snakes, bears, they were all stronger than us, faster than us, better equipped to survive. Eyes grew distant, remembering a history that stretched back millions of years. So we learned to be afraid. We learned to see danger before it arrived. Our eyes became sharper. Our nerves became quicker. Our brains learned to process information faster than any predator could react. Listened with complete attention. "When I fight," continued, "I do not think about being fast. I think about surviving. Every part of my body knows that if I am too slow, I will die. That fear has been passed down through millions of generations. It is in my blood, in my bones, in every beat of my heart." "Fear made you strong," said slowly. "Fear made us adapt. The animals that hunted us are gone now, but the fear remains. And when we face danger, when we truly believe our lives are at risk, something wakes up inside us. Something ancient. Something that knows how to survive against impossible odds." Was silent for a long moment. Then he did something that no one expected. He bowed his massive head. "I was a fool," he said. I looked at humans and saw only weakness, small bodies, soft skin, no natural weapons. I thought your species had nothing to offer the galaxy." He raised his head again. "I was wrong. Your strength is hidden. It lives in the spaces between moments, in the parts of time that other species cannot see." Felt something shift in his chest. For the first time since the fight, he felt something other than regret. "What will you do now?" he asked. "I will learn," stood up slowly, his massive form rising like a mountain. "I will study human combat, not to defeat you but to understand you. Perhaps someday your ways and our ways can become something new, something stronger than either alone." He extended one of his 4 hands toward. Looked at the offered hand. It was large enough to crush his skull with a single squeeze, but he reached out and took it. They shook hands, the human and the giant, while 50 workers watched in amazement. News of this moment spread almost as fast as the fight had. The unbroken, learning from a human, the greatest warrior acknowledging that another species had something to teach. It was unprecedented. It was revolutionary. The Galactic Assembly officially recognized humans as a priority species the following month, not because they were feared, but because they had proven their worth. Military academies across the galaxy began accepting human instructors. Scientific institutions launched new research into human biology. Diplomatic relations improved overnight. But did not care about any of that. He went back to moving boxes in the cargo bay, back to sending money to his sister, back to his simple, quiet life. The offers kept coming and he kept deleting them. Fame and power meant nothing to him. They never had. Visited him one evening after her work ended. She found him on the observation deck again, watching the stars. "The whole galaxy knows your name," she said, standing beside him. "You could be anything now, a general, a politician, a celebrity. Why do you stay here, lifting boxes with workers who used to ignore you?" Smiled. It was a real smile, warm and tired. "Because this is honest work," he said. "When I lift a box, I know exactly what I am doing. I know it helps someone somewhere. There is no fighting, no blood, no broken bodies." He looked at his hands, the same hands that had struck 5 times in the space of heartbeats. "These hands have done terrible things. I do not want them to do terrible things anymore." Took his hand in hers. "You are a good person, even if you do not believe it." "I am trying to be." They stood together, watching Earth turn in the distance, a small blue dot that had produced something the galaxy never expected. The next morning, arrived at the cargo bay to find a group of young waiting for him. They were teenagers by their species standards, barely 7 feet tall, with eyes that glowed with curiosity instead of arrogance. "You are the human called Ghost," one of them said, "the one who defeated the Unbroken." Sighed. "I am just a cargo worker." "We have watched your fight 1,000,000 times," another one said. "We have slowed it down and studied every movement, but we still do not understand. How do humans move so fast? Is it magic? Is it technology? Can we learn to do it too?" Looked at their young faces, eager and innocent, wanting to understand something that had never made sense to them. He thought about dismissing them, sending them away, returning to his quiet routine. But then he remembered something it said. "Perhaps someday, your ways and our ways can become something new." For the first time in a long time, decided to share what he knew. "We are not fast," he told them, echoing the words he had spoken to. "We are scared, and scared things learn to move before danger even knows it is hunting them." The young looked at each other in confusion. "Sit down," said, "I will explain." He sat on a cargo container, and the young aliens gathered around him. He began to talk about Earth, about predators and prey, about fear and survival, about millions of years of evolution that had turned weakness into a hidden weapon. And as he spoke, something changed. The human who wanted to be invisible was becoming a teacher. The ghost was becoming a light. Across the galaxy, in arenas and academies and diplomatic halls, species were learning what Earth had always known. Humans were not the strongest. They were not They had no armor, no claws, no obvious gifts. But when the universe pushed them into a corner, when survival was the only thing that mattered, they became something else entirely. They became the thing that moved between moments. The thing that struck before you knew you were in a fight. The thing that had learned, through millions of years of being hunted, to never be prey again. And now, for the first time, the galaxy was paying attention. And that would change everything. "I am human," he said simply, "and you never asked what that meant." He would become what he used to be. It was not a request. Looked back at his empty room, at his simple life that was about to end. Then he stepped outside and let them lead him into the darkness.